al-Baghdadi.
I don't want to talk about it, but he was screaming, crying, and whimpering. And he was scared out of his mind. And think of James Foley, think of Kayla, think of the things he did to Kayla, what he did to Foley and so many others. And for those people that say, oh, isn't this a little violent? Think of how many times have you seen men, I think in all cases men for the most part, but in terms of this, where you see the orange suits and you see the ocean and they're beheaded. Or how many of you got to see, because it was out there, the Jordanian pilot whose plane went down, they captured him, they put him in a cage and they set him on fire. And the king of Jordan actually attacked very powerfully when that happened. They've never seen a thing like that. But he set him on fire. This was al-Baghdadi. And you should never, ever, hopefully, see a thing like that again. Now, there'll be new people emerge, but this was the worst of this particular world. This was the worst. Probably, in certain ways, the smartest. He was also a coward. And he didn't want to die. But think of it, everybody was out, and we were able to search him down and find him in the tunnel. We knew the tunnel existed, and that's where he was.
And you've taken a lot of heat for the Syria pullout. Do you think this will change the standard understanding?
Well, I don't have a Syria pullout. I just don't want to guard Turkey and Syria for the rest of our lives. I mean, I don't want to do it. It's very expensive. It's very dangerous. They've been fighting for centuries. I don't want to have my people, 2,000 men and women, or 1,000, or 28. We had 28 guards. I said, I don't want them there anyway. I don't want them. Now, I will secure the oil. That happens to be in a certain part, but that's tremendous money involved. I would love to, the oil in, I'll tell you a story in Iraq. So they spent, President Bush went in. I strongly disagreed with it, even though it wasn't my expertise at the time, but I have a very good instinct about things. They went in, and I said, that's a tremendous mistake. And there were no weapons of mass destruction. It turned out I was right. I was right for other reasons, but it turned out, on top of everything else, they had no weapons of mass destruction, because that would be a reason to go in, but they had none. But I heard recently that Iraq, over the last number of years, actually discriminates against America in oil leases. In other words, some oil companies from other countries, after all we've done, have an advantage in Iraq for the oil. I said, keep the oil. Give them what they need, keep the oil. Why should we go in, we lose thousands of lives, spend trillions of dollars, and our companies don't even have an advantage in getting the oil leases. So I just tell you that story. That's what I heard.
Did Gina Haspel play a role in this? Can you talk a little bit about that? And I saw your NSC counterterrorism director out in the hallway. Was there a role with NSC
yes.
counterterrorism?
Everybody. Gina was great. Everybody played a role. Joe was great. Gina was great. They were all great.
Just to follow up, did your Syria pullout, did that generate the intelligence that led to this operation?
No. We were looking at this. Look, as I said, Steve, I've been looking at this. I'm here almost 3 years. I've been looking at this for 3 years. They'd come in, sir, we have somebody under. I said, I don't want somebody. I want al-Baghdadi. That's the one I want. They'd say, well, we have somebody else. I said, that's great. Fine. Take him out. But I want al-Baghdadi. That's who I want. I don't want other people. And then I also wanted Hamza bin Laden, because he's a young man, around 30, looks just like his father, tall, very handsome, and he was talking bad things, just like his father. If you read my book, there was a book just before the World Trade Center came down, and I don't get any credit for this, but that's okay. I never do. But here we are. I wrote a book, a really very successful book, and in that book, about a year before the World Trade Center was blown up, I said, there is somebody named Osama bin Laden. You better kill him or take him out. Something to that effect. He's big trouble. Now, I wasn't in government. I was building buildings and doing what I did, but I always found it fascinating. But I saw this man, tall, handsome, very charismatic, making horrible statements about wanting to destroy our country. And I'm writing a book. I think I wrote 12 books. All did very well. And I'm writing a book. World Trade Center had not come down. I think it was about, if you check, it was about a year before the World Trade Center came down. And I'm saying to people, take out Osama bin Laden, that nobody ever heard of. Nobody ever heard of. I mean, al-Baghdadi, everybody hears because he's built this monster for a long time. But nobody ever heard of Osama bin Laden until really the World Trade Center. But about a year, you'll have to check it, a year and a half before the World Trade Center came down, the book came out. I was talking about Osama bin Laden. I said, you have to kill him. You have to take him out. Nobody listened to me. And to this day, I get people coming up to me. They said, you know what, one of the most amazing things I've ever seen about you is that you predicted that Osama bin Laden had to be killed before he knocked down the World Trade Center. It's true. Now, most of the press doesn't want to write that, but, you know, but it is true. If you go back, look at my book. I think it was The America We Deserve. I made a prediction, and let's put it this way. If they would have listened to me, a lot of things would have been different.
Talk about some of the difficult decisions you had along the way here in this operation. Anything that weighed on you or that you had to...
Well, just death. I mean, you know, I'm sending a large number of brilliant fighters. These are the greatest fighters in the world. I'd rather let the generals tell you, but a large number. We had 8 helicopters, and we had many other ships and planes. It was a large group, and again, this is a large group heading over very, very strong firepower areas where that was decision one. Will they make it? And they made it. But they took fire, but they made it. They didn't take, we don't believe, again, it was nation fire. We believe it was individual group fire or gang fire, as they call it. So they made it. So that was a big relief. Then they went in, they blasted their way in, you've heard. They blasted their way in so quickly, it was incredible, because this building was quite powerful, strong. They blasted their way in, and then all hell broke loose. It's incredible that nobody was killed or hurt. We had nobody even hurt. And that's why the dog was so great. We actually had a robot to go in the tunnel, but we didn't get it because we were tracking him very closely. But we had a robot just in case, because we were afraid he had a suicide vest on, and if you get close to him and he blows it up, you're going to die. You're going to die. He had a very powerful suicide vest.
You make decisions in the moment while troops were on the ground?
No, they had it just incredible. We were getting full reports on literally a minute-by-minute basis. Sir, we just broke in. Sir, the wall is down. Sir, you know, we've captured. Sir, 2 people are coming out right now, hands up, fighters. Then the 11 children out. Numerous people were dead within the building that they killed. Then it turned out they gave us a report. Sir, there's only 1 person in the building. We are sure he's in the tunnel trying to escape, but it's a dead-end tunnel. And it was brutal, but it was over. And as I said, when he blew himself up, the tunnel collapsed on top of him, on top of everything. And his children, I mean, so he led his 3 children to death. So, you know.
In the tunnel, that's when the robot followed him into, that's why no...
The robot was set to, but we didn't hook it up because they were moving too fast. We were moving fast. We weren't 100% sure about the tunnel being dead-ended. It's possible that there could have been an escape hatch somewhere along that we didn't know about. So we moved very, very quickly. I mean, these people, they were moving, they were chasing, yeah, they were chasing. But again, because of suicide vests, you can't get too close. Again, one of the reasons with the wives is if they have a suicide vest, you know, you have to be very, very careful. These vests are brutal. brutal. And they go for a long distance. Yes, please.
Have you spoken or will you speak to the families, like the Foley family?
I'm calling the families now. It will be a pleasure to do that. The Foley family, who I know, will be calling Kayla's family. What he did to her was incredible. It's a well-known story, and I'm not going to say it, but you know that. He kept her in captivity for a long period of time. He kept her in his captivity, his personal captivity. She was a beautiful woman, beautiful young woman. Helped people. She was there to help people. And he saw her, and he thought she was beautiful. And he brought her into captivity for a long period of time, and then he killed her. He was an animal, and he was a gutless animal. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it. It's a very great day for our country.